Okay, so this is the drive up to the Chor Hapayak gym, which is north of Bangkok. And you guys might recognize this drive up because we trained with Bang San at the Chor Hapayak gym as well. So this is the same drive up. But in this session, we are training with Wangchannoi Sor Palanchai, who is also a trainer at the Chor Hapayak gym and is definitely much more recognizable and more famous to Western fans of Muay Thai than Bang San would be. Wangchannoi is already in the Muay Thai Library with 2 sessions. They're some of our most popular sessions. People really like Wangchannoi, and it's amazing to have someone like him and to have the response to him in the Muay Thai Library, because that's kind of what it's about, is these fighters who maybe were a little bit niche or like only not that many people knew about, but then when they get exposure to their style and they kind of go down the rabbit hole of not only learning from in the Muay Thai Library, but they start watching them on YouTube and things like this, people just get really, really engrossed in certain fighters and certain styles, and I completely understand why people love Wangchannoi in that way. I'm very afraid of Wangchannoi. I've met him several times. He is sweet. He is one of the sweetest men you'll ever meet. He's wonderful. He works with children a lot. Like, he's just a very sweet guy. He also, you know, has a little bit of a knockling party reputation from when he was much younger. But he's in his 50s now. He's like 57. Very, very sweet guy. He's a very good teacher. He's a very physical teacher, so he's not about like verbal explanation. He's very much about just feeling his energy, which I'm going to be bringing out a lot in this Muay Thai Library session, and you can get a lot out of his first 2. Working on this, like taking a step on every strike, is something that I know now from our first session, and I try to bring back because I know this about him training with him again, and he just takes that I'm understanding that part and just goes with it, and we get much deeper into his kind of very aggressive pressuring style. Even though he's a pressuring style, he is a counter fighter, which just is an insane thing to feel right in front of you. He's very scary. So scary and wonderful. He beat Karahat 3 times, which is very hard to do. He's a little bit bigger than Karahat, but they did have the Lumpini belt at the same size as each other. Wangchannoi was Lumpini champion 4 times at 122 pounds, and he had been Lumpini champion at 108 pounds earlier in his career, and ultimately only defended that belt 1 time and then was stripped of the title because he just got bigger. So he then advanced into 122, which 122 is a very, very competitive fight class in Thailand, especially in the Golden Age. We're actually about to pass the gym, so look for this red, white, and blue sign when you're going to this gym. So 122 is an incredibly competitive class, and one of the things that I love so much about Wangchannoi is he beat 9 Fighter of the Years. Not nine persons, but 9 years of Fighter of the Year he beat before he became Fighter of the Year in 1993. The only person who was Fighter of the Year who he did not beat was Samson in 1991, because Samson was a lower weight class, so he wasn't in the same weight class as Wangchannoi. Otherwise, all the Fighters of the Year are within the weight class that Wangchannoi was fighting in, and for 9 years, from the 80s until 1993, Wangchannoi beat all of these, in order, all of these men who were Fighter of the Year from about 1983 until 1993 when he was Fighter of the Year, which is just amazing. He has very heavy hands. One of his nicknames was I Mat Samsipsam Wee, which it kind of means kid or boy or whatever in Thai, but if you're trying to be polite, drop that part of his name when you're referencing it. Just call him Mat Samsipsam Wee. It means 33-second fist, and he got this title, or this alias, because he knocked out Nam Kabuan in 33 seconds of round 1 of their fight together, which I'm sure shocked everybody. I knew that it was something that happened, and when I saw it, it completely shocked me. So it's amazing. And again, going back to this kind of like partier knockling bad boy reputation that he had, he also had the Chaya Kid Shivis in his name. Hey, What you guys are about to see is the third installment of Wangchannoi Sor Palanchai into the Muay Thai Library. Wangchannoi was Fighter of the Year in 1993 and was five-time Lumpini champion at two different weights, 108 and 122. What you're going to learn in this library session is an extension upon what are in the other two entries into the Muay Thai Library. In the first one, he was really teaching this like stepping on every strike, which is incredible, and you can really feel this kind of like pong, pong energy that he's bringing forward in his style. He also worked with me a lot on this, what I came to call ambient footwork in the second session in terms of like how you move around between things. Both of those are very important to understand in watching this Muay Thai Library session. So I do recommend, if you haven't seen those yet, you go back and watch them. And even if you have seen them before, go back and refreshing yourself on some of those concepts, because it's basically building upon those two concepts in this Muay Thai Library session. What he really emphasizes in this, and what I want you to look out for, is something that I'm calling depth charge. So his stepping on every strike and this way that he pressures his opponent and he's just kind of like pulsing forward all the time, this feels to me, with his energy in front of me, like a depth charge of how you just drop this thing into the water and there's just like boom, boom, energy, and then just everything just kind of like comes up out of that. So he has this as his defense because he has a very pressuring style. He's always coming forward, and so he's just kind of like pressuring his opponent like this. And as they're trying to get him off of them, they're trying to strike as they're moving backwards, they're trying to counter, they're trying to like keep him at a distance. He basically just blocks or parries or whatever and punishes back, and it's got this pulsing forward, destructive kind of like pong, pong energy to it. Another thing that fits in with this and that he emphasizes quite a bit, he keeps saying raw, raw, and in my voiceover, I'm translating literally what he's saying and talking about how you're waiting, because he is a counter fighter. So he is what in Thai they call Jangwat Song, which literally means the second rhythm. So it means you want your opponent to go first, and then you're going to counter them. This is also something that Duuglas-Ittu is really big on, which is that you come forward and pressure your opponent and basically force them to bring their weapons out so that you can just kind of like counter them, off balance them, make them look silly, and then punish them. So in my voiceover, while I'm talking about waiting, because this is the word that Wangchannoi is using, he's saying raw, raw over and over again, it is not a passive waiting. You are not at a standstill letting them go first and then you're going to counter. You are forcing them to go first because you are pressuring them with space, with distance. You are eating the space in front of you, putting a lot of pressure on your opponent with this depth charge pulsing coming forward thing that forces their weapons to come out first, and then you can just get that the hell out of the way and counter them. This is, to me, energy-wise, what makes Wangchannoi so scary. If you guys hear me talk about Wangchannoi in the world, or when I'm talking about him for the Muay Thai Library in these sessions, I talk a lot about how he really scares me. He's a really intimidating energy to have in front of you, which is not his personality. Personality-wise, he is not intimidating or scary at all. He's a very, very sweet guy. But his energy in front of you, because he has this pressuring, pulsing thing, and then he hurts you off of it, it is the way that he embodies this pressure, the way that as he stands in front of you with this forward pressure that makes you kind of like want to get him off of you, and so your weapons are going to come out. This intimidation of him, this is his root, this is his energy, and this is what makes him so scary. So those are some of the biggest themes to be watching for in this session that absolutely do not miss, because those are really the core of this next installment in learning Wangchannoi style. He also works quite a bit on the teep, and he takes the same teep from Samart, which is this kind of side, you turn your hip, side teep so that it can't be caught. This is important because a lot of his style is catching, parrying, countering, all this stuff. So if you're going to be using your teep, a teep is not really a counter move so much. A teep is often in defense, it comes out first, or in offense, you're moving your opponent backwards. So it's important to make this long weapon very hard to counter or very hard to deal with if you're going to be the one possibly bringing it out first, or if you're going to be controlling the distance of your opponent with that strike. He has some very cool clinch escapes that he does with his arms. He does this kind of like windmill thing to get out of clinch grabs. So if you are someone who does not want to be in the clinch, this is a very, very good way to get out of it very quickly. And it's a way to not get tired. If someone is kind of like grabbing on you, you can get out of it quickly. And he also has this concept that I really want to bring forward, which is kind of, I've talked about Muay in other sessions, and I talk about Muay myself in working with him, but he doesn't bring it up. Instead, he actually brings out the opposite, which is called chat gen. Chat gen in Thai actually means very clear, like crystal clear, crisp, precise, this kind of thing. And so a lot of his rhythms and how he's talking about being Jangwat song and the way he's talking about waiting and countering, a lot of this is to make your strikes so legible. It's to make them really chat gen. So instead of throwing a lot of things, which is Muay, or like trying to be first or trying to hit with many, many different things, you want to make every single thing that you're hitting your opponent with very clear, very crisp, and chat gen. And so one of the ways that he's able to have this style that he has that is so like pulsing forward and powerful on every single strike instead of like 3 little ones to set up a big one is that every single thing becomes really legible. Every single strike of his is very chat gen, and he is basically forcing his opponent into a position of having to rebalance themselves or recollect themselves. And as they're busy trying to like pull their root back together, he's landing these incredibly powerful, scary strikes on them that he coaxed out of them by being very intimidating and pressuring. So I'm very, very happy to be bringing more Wangchannoi into the Muay Thai library. I love his style. I really like the way he teaches. I love his whole personality as a man, and I really, really love watching his Muay Thai from back in the day because he's just so scary and amazing. So very happy to be getting his particular style more into the Muay Thai library, and I know you guys love him. He's some of the most popular sessions in the Muay Thai library, so here is more of what you guys already love building upon itself. Wangchannoi Sor Palanchai Part 3. All right, so this is the start of afternoon training at the Chor Hapayak gym, and these are the Chor Hapayak fighters just doing their skipping after they've done their run as they're getting ready for training. When I was watching back this video, so I could, catch some things before voicing it over, I was just totally amazed at how much they are turning and watching me and Wangchannoi. And one of the things that Kevin pointed out is that they probably don't get the version of Wangchannoi that I get. When you're a trainer at a gym, like a pad man at a gym, there's not a whole lot of instruction. It's not a kind of like, I am now under the tutelage of whatever this incredible pad man is. They just kind of like, he's the one who's making them do all this work. But when he's teaching me, when he's instructing me on specific things, part of their watching is they're downloading a way of teaching and information that they might not get directly when they're training with him. Wangchannoi uses pad work as his training method. You can see this in both his first and second session. We also ask him to help teach me on the bag because he uses the bag to teach Jangwat, or rhythm and timing. But here we go. Just watch his face and look at his cartoon like, ah, and you'll see why he's so intimidating, but also he exposes how he feels about his movements in the way that he like kind of caricatures them. So he has this hook that's a little bit like you keep your elbow very tight to your ribs and you almost slap with like the front part of your fist. This is what he knocked Nam Kabuan out with. It's very fast and it's surprisingly hard, and he uses it while he's pivoting to the side. So a lot of our pad work is actually just power as I'm coming towards him. But how you learn from this, like what he's getting from me by having me hit the pad so hard at this kind of like steady pace here, is his kind of like pressure style with heavy hands and hard strikes. He moves into his opponent's space, forces them to fire, and then punishes them. Right here, he's having me teep him, and he's turning sideways the way that Samart teeps. Not a lot of people actually teep like Samart back in the Golden Age, but tons of Golden Age fighters teach the Samart teep now. So it has become the kind of like gold standard teep that everyone kind of seems to have taken from Samart. The point Wangchannoi is making there is that if you teep straight up, not only can people catch it, but also you're off balance. So he wants me to turn my hip so that you can teep with a lot of power and not knock yourself backwards, especially because I'm smaller than him. So I knock myself off of him. I like ricochet, but there, if I turn, I don't bounce off of him. Nah, better. He wants a very deep turn. I'm struggling with it because actually my foot is broken, which I didn't know at the time, so I'm doing my best through a lot of pain on that right standing foot. So you have to kind of land on the full foot so that you have balance, but it turns to the side as you're throwing that teep out. I can't put weight on the ball of my foot, which is why it's a little hard. So here he's going to position how the end point should be when I'm hitting him. See how my arm and my leg are almost like one line together as I'm hitting him with that teep. And here he's just invading my space. He's just walking towards me to put that pressure on me. And I'm just supposed to be using this teep kind of like a jab, but a little bit like a spacer. Like I'm just juggling him. So in our first session, he has this stepping on every single strike. There's this like ba, ba, like just this kind of like pulse forward with all of your strikes. And here he's adding this little pivot rotation. So you throw the hook while pivoting to the side. It's a little bit like what Karahat does when he bats your guard down. We call it the windshield wiper. But the way Karahat does it is very gentle, and he just moves your guard out of the way. Wangchannoi is getting that guard the hell out of the way with this, like, you can hit someone in the head with the actual hook. He says to aim for the neck, not so much the jaw, or you can hit their guard. So you're basically just slamming them off balance, but you're moving to the side at the same time. See how he's pivoting to the side of me? And he can go in either direction, and that opens up for whichever side of his body is now bladed away. You see all these guys stopping their jump rope to watch what he's teaching me about this hook here. So there, I went towards his left side with my right hook because that's where the pad is, but I really need to be stepping my right foot over as I'm hitting that hook. So it's a pivot and a hook at the same time. And if you go too laterally, you're going to have no power in the hook. So you have to step towards his foot. You want to step like at an angle as close to him as possible. You don't want to step directly to your side because then you just lose both power and angle. So another point that he made in our first session together that I'm now remembering on this correction is that your strikes are very long, right? So your uppercut is very long. Sagat makes this point as well, that in Muay Thai, it's not the same as boxing. In boxing, you can get very, very close to people, but in Muay Thai, there's elbows. So you can't punch super close in because of the elbows. So, he's making that point again. So the elbows make your punches much longer in Muay Thai. So your hooks and uppercuts are going to be longer than in boxing. But in order to get power on that long uppercut, you have to take this big, like Jack Dempsey, pong step forward. So see how I'm just kind of controlling, I'm staying at this distance where basically he's at the end of all of my strikes, but because he's trying to stay a little bit away from me, I basically have to just march him down slowly. It's not dragging slow, but it's not rushed. It's not bursts of strikes. It's a steady walking down and kind of like pong, 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 like just keeping him on the end of everything in this pulse. It takes me a little bit. I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with that banging hook on the pivot. I've started working on this in my sparring with Yod Kun Pan, and it works really well. He'll get used to it after a while, and I'll have to like find a new solve. But right now, it's working really well. So now he's starting to bring in defense, which is really good. He's going to be hitting me back. And something that I remembered is that when he's hitting with his left hook, which if you're both orthodox, this is going to be, well, if you're orthodox, this is your open side, is someone's left side on you. So if he's trying to throw his left hook, I'm very susceptible to that because it's open, it's right here. So I push against his shoulder with my long arm while blocking with my back arm. So you'll see this kind of like pulse against his chest and his shoulder as part, right there, as part of the block. It's in doing this when I like start to really feel this kind of like pong thing of like defense and punishment as I come towards him. I named it the depth charge because it feels like a depth charge to me. It's got this kind of like underwater feeling. And if you do this enough, pressuring your opponent and like hurting them with your blocks as you're keeping this distance that makes it hard for them to breathe, the little fishes of their confidence will all just go belly up to the surface if you're doing this depth charge, like, and that's actually a sound that Wangchannoi starts to make when he's getting me to get on his rhythm like that. Is this depth charge, like underground, underwater. I can't see his uppercut, so he throws this long left uppercut, and I'm supposed to parry it with my left hand. Like, my left hand is just from the elbow supposed to drop down and block it, and I can't see it because his long uppercut and his long jab look exactly the same from how he starts it. And see how he kind of like Jack Dempsey steps in on that? He's saying watch the top of the chest because from there you can see the entire sight picture. So he focuses on kind of the top of the chest is where he looks. And he wants your guard, basically your thumbs are touching your eyebrows all the time. He says from up here, you can just parry anything that's coming towards your face. So you can protect your face just by keeping your guard up with your thumbs by your eyebrows, and you do these parries like this. And then for bigger stuff, you're kind of like pulsing out to keep pressure on him. But by having your hands up like this and you can see everything, you're just doing these tiny little parries to interrupt anything that's coming directly straight at your face. Ah, look at his weight transfer when he brings his punches forward. And then he's very steady in one spot when he's doing his parries, and he parries very close to his face. He does not reach out for any of those parries. So here, that's the same thing. He's just throwing, I'm blocking with my elbow there because I can't see it, but he wants the left arm to come parry that uppercut down. And see how he just kind of like stays at a distance that puts pressure on me. So I just have to like deal with the strikes coming at me from his distance and then close the distance on my strike. So I'm asking about how to cover this distance for the left kick. And he basically does it the way that Karahat does it as well, which is that you can switch your feet, but you don't want to cover distance as you're switching your feet. So you're not galloping forward with your right foot. You're staying at the same distance so you don't land into someone's punching range, but you do it fast enough that you can then throw that front lead leg as a back leg kick. There, I'm starting to feel that kind of like depth charge pulsing forward on that block there by hitting his chest and kind of off-balancing him. In his first session, he talks a lot about off-balancing your opponent in order to land your more powerful strikes. So you're constantly trying to off-balance them, and then the moment they're on one leg or trying to catch their balance again, you're kicking them or kneeing them or punching them already. But look at his pace on this. Like, this is pretty relentless. It doesn't stop. It's not a single strike at a time, but each strike is very individualized. It's very what Phnom Tuong Let called neng. Nen, sorry, not neng. Nen. Nen means like tight, like very like precise, explosive, very legible from a distance. So it has the one strike at a time visibility to it in that everything is very articulated, but the pace is not one strike, stop and move around, one strike, stop and move around. It's one pulse, pulse, charge, like just relentless. So he's telling me to go towards his chin on my punches, and look at his parries, how he just does not, he keeps his hands exactly in the same spot with his, the kind of knuckle of his thumbs would go right by his eyebrow, and he can just parry anything from right in front of his face. There we go. I have a little bit of an air bubble where after I parry, I'm at a standstill. I should be firing after it. Like it should be kind of like a 2-beat rhythm of like block, go, block, go. A little bit more like that. That's a little bit closer. So he's starting to feel it. So he's like, you're getting in this now. He's very reassuring and sweet. He tells me you have to practice this every day in order to actually feel it and do it. You're not going to get it on your first day, which is nice and generous. But the important point is that when he's like he's feeling it as the pad man of like, that's where that is. He totally just broke my nose with the jab. So I'm reaching out just slightly, and you can see that my hands just keep dragging down to like by my jaw. Just keep them higher. He says cha-cha, cha-cha. Cha actually means slow in Thai. What he means is like chill, like rhythm, like don't rush. He doesn't mean be slow. He means like feel slow. Feel like everything is just at this kind of leisurely, aggressive pace, like you're a slow-moving train that could just roll over anything that gets in its way. So this is don't keep your hands too far away from your face. You want to actually be touching. If you keep your guard off your face, when they hit your guard, you like hit yourself with your own glove. It's not great. His little cartoon sounds. Boop, 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 boop. So he's showing me exactly there how not to keep it low and not to keep it off your face. So like make actual contact. So you have to be able to teach yourself where exactly your sight is. Like you can't put your hands right in front of your face because then you literally can't see anything, and it can't be too wide because then you're not blocked. You have to learn to see through your guard that's up. So mess around with it, and you have to train your eyes to be looking out through that sight picture. I drop my hands a lot after strikes, I think because I can't see, because I put them up for a guard, and then I drop them back down in order to be able to see. But if you can see with them up, that's the ideal. It's like you can hear how he thinks of the pace of his strikes. This kind of like bah, bah, So I'm telling him I can feel stepping forward for my front side. I don't actually feel how to step forward with my right. Like when I come forward with my right, it feels too behind everything. So he's showing me physically how not moving your back doesn't work. So you basically think of the front leg as not coming first, but it's just guiding the back foot in. So when you're stepping with your front side, your front foot and your front hand land at the same time. When you're coming with your back side, it's almost like the front side is just clipping through the door before your right side gets there, but it's not dragging it. It just happens to be in front of it. You're really thinking of your back side coming forward. All right, so we're getting some powerful teeps here now to start this round. So I'm basically pushing him backwards with my legs. So I'm teeping and kicking. So teep to move him backwards, which makes him off balance because he has to catch himself. And then kicking before he has a chance to correct this. So even from my backside, he wants that teep hip to turn. Some people don't do that with their back teep. They only do the smart teep with their front side. He wants it on both sides. So he's showing how if you teep straight and someone can catch the kick, they just have to lift it. They just lift your teep and then you're just falling over. There's Bang San, also in the Muay Thai Library. So it's a little bit hard for me to move him. He's much larger than me. But there has to be a jolt on the teep. It doesn't have to be super powerful, but the timing on it has to be very like punk. You can't have a lazy push on the teep.
What? He has so much more room than me for some reason.
So when I'm teeping at the same distance from him, and I'm actually shorter than him, so my legs are shorter, he feels too close. He's closer with longer legs, and because he's turning his standing foot so hard, he actually has more room to then like side kick me off. So the turning of the standing foot is a huge part of the spacing and control of that teep. So before I was just kind of like charging towards him with this kind of pulsing pressure.
Yeah.
With the teep and the kick, this is now me kind of making fun of me. My balance is going backwards. So he's making fun of me there. This is him coming towards me, so I basically have to juggle him off with my teep, and then if I get him going backwards, then I can start coming forward with the teep and kicking him. It's basically a way to change direction or to control someone who's coming towards you. So now he's coming at me with hands a little bit, and it's the same thing back to that parrying and punishing. So he's making me change directions all the time, right? So he starts coming towards me, teep. Then he starts going back, I have to start following him. Look at his root, look at his overall shape and how balanced he is. He was very happy with that push off on his shoulder as he was hooking me, because that's the like depth charge that he definitely used in his fighting, and he wants to feel it off of me. But see how I can just block whatever he's throwing at me, stand my ground, and come back with something? This is what he's trying to get out of me. It's this like, I don't move back from this spot.
Yeah.
But I'm not as scary as you.
Yeah.
He's telling me you have to do it every day. You can't just do it out of nowhere. And so I'm saying I'm not as scary as you. I'm like, you're very scary. Look at the face he makes. I think he thinks it's funny when I tell him that he's really scary. I tell him this often. And he's talking about these like fighters who just come forward, and he points to one of their fighters over here. This is Sylvie in the red shorts. He's shorter than me, and he just comes forward. Like, he is just like relentless, will not stop. And Wangchannoi is like, oh, have you ever seen Sylvie fight? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually a fan of Sylvie. And he was wrapping his hands, and he's like, what? Like, he had no idea that I would even know who he was. So jabs are a very fast, very close punch, and so he's saying you have to have these eyes to be able to just kind of like, boop, boop, like swatting mosquitoes out of your face. So he wants me to make contact on this knee. This is very, very standard to kind of like cross the person's body with your arm. This gives you protection from like hooks and punches, but you can also latch onto their shoulder or their neck or their head and kind of pull them into it as well. It's like an anchoring point to really have good balance and power on your knee as well. Panam Tuong Lek, when he was teaching to grab the shoulder, he was saying when you train, because you have greng jai is what they call it in Thai, it's like having deference for your trainer. You grab the shoulder, whereas you don't have deference for your opponents. You would grab the top of their head. So now we're getting back a little bit to those like pivoting over. Ooh. Dong, depth charge. Dong. But see how I don't have to use any kind of like back step or anything as defense. Like space for him is not defense. You can go backwards to make your opponent come forward in order to kind of like time them and hit them as they're coming in, but he's not using it as a defense. He's using it as a timing mechanism. He likes to come forward, but because he's a Jangwa Song, he's a counter fighter, he wants the opponent to go first. So a lot of what he's showing me with this defense is your opponent hitting you, they're going backwards and they're hitting you, and you're just blocking it and then punishing it. I love his sounds. It's like definitely got a like encouraging element to it. There's that hook. He was very happy with that like slappy hook that he knocked Nam Kabun out with.
Yes, come on. Come on. You can do this.
I was in the right position.
Okay, you're getting tired.
But I felt like my hooks were getting very wide. They need to be like stuck to your ribs, and you just kind of like, it's like you're cold and like swatting that way. They were getting wide, which messed up my timing on that. So if you keep everything contained and within your frame, your timing is much better. So I am waiting for him to go first. I like that he cheers every time I get that like block and shoulder push at the same time, because he can feel the kind of like pong off of it. That looks good. That feels good. This is why Wangchannoi style feels so good. It's just like, I am taking this space. Ugh. My teep is terrible though. His teep was good. Wangchannoi has a good teep. But see how I'm basically going from side to side on him? Like I'm kind of corralling him by pivoting this way, kick, pivoting this way, kick. It's this kind of relentless corralling him into the space right in front of me by slightly stepping outside him all the time, because then he can't do a deep pivot to come out. Just marching him down. He said I'm in good shape, which is nice, because I didn't know if he was going to stop.ซ้อมตลอด. He's saying you have to do this all the time. You have to practice this all the time. So I'm complaining to him. I'm like, I can feel that on my hook I'm going too wide. And he's like, yeah, don't do that. Look at how he's just stepping. If you look at his feet compared to my feet, you can see how he's stepping outside my guard. And then he's literally pushing my guard into myself to off-balance me. Oh, so pretty. And he can just land with power on everything because of where he moves. So now he's showing me how to do it while someone's coming to knee or kick you, because that means that they're on one foot. And I can alternate between pushing his chest or pivoting to the side there. Gotta have that block too, though. Like, when you have a very aggressive offense like this, that's this kind of like pressuring coming forward offense, it's so important to have really good defense as well. I was in like offense mode, and so when he came to kick me, I was leaning forward and I didn't even bring my leg up as a check. So you have to keep your balance in the middle. You can't charge forward with your head. Here we go a little bit. So I'm keeping him at the end of my strikes here, like he was trying to have me do in the first section. See that? Don't have to take any kind of step. Just can't see the uppercut, but just defend it and go. Don't step back. There we go. It's like every day. You have to get used to this rhythm and this practice every day, because it's not like I did it once and now this is how I work. You have to get this kind of like charging. Crew Thailand, in his first session in the Muay Thai Library, he also has this stepping on every single strike thing. And it's like the foundation of how you get power into your strikes and how you come forward. When you have power on every single strike, and it doesn't mean you're throwing with power on every strike, it means that the way you throw has power on every strike, you're intimidating and hurting your opponent. I can't see his uppercut, I can't see. Look at how balanced he is. Jesus. I feel like people don't geek out and appreciate their padmen enough. Like, when you actually watch padmen and how much energy they expend and how much they shape you as a fighter, just in how they move, it's incredible. To have a good padman is like such a blessing. You should geek out and watch your padman more. If you have a bad padman, don't do it. He's good. Because there's no like change in tempo, there's no like, there are other styles where it's kind of like soft power or like slow explode. Because it's all one pace, all one power all the time, you find these kind of like rhythms in distances rather than rhythms in timing or power or something like this. So I'm asking him what to do if you're going backwards. And so he's having me just teep him. Like if I'm going backwards, just juggle him, just teep him off. And he's Wangchannoi, so he doesn't care. He's just going to keep marching towards me. So now he's showing what to do if you're facing a femur fighter. So I'm Wangchannoi and he's the femur fighter. You just have to keep coming towards them. But he actually says the same thing that Duuglas-Ittu says, and what Duuglas-Ittu teaches is that you don't ever bring your weapons out first. You march your opponent down with pressure, and as they're going backwards, they have to fire at you. They're like, oh my god, this person is coming at me. I have to score on them or punish them or hurt them as they're coming towards me, and this forces them to go first. And so I'm like, how do you get someone like Karahat, who is absolutely a counter fighter, how do you get him to go first? Because he fought Karahat 3 times. And he's like, this is not that hard. He's like, watch. So see how he basically just blocks whatever I'm throwing at him as I'm trying to get away from him? It's like, whatever, just kind of get that out of the way. So he's him. This is how you get someone to go first. You pressure them, their weapon will come out because they're trying to keep you off of them. You just parry it, block it, whatever, and then punish them back. You force them to go first by forcing them to go backwards. I don't know that in contemporary Muay Thai that's still the case, where going backwards you have to fire. Back in the Golden Age, you could not go backwards without scoring and win. I think now you can. So now I'm the one coming forward. I have to put pressure on him so that when his weapons come out, I just block it and counter. But I'm really bad at making people go first. So I'm struggling with it a little bit right here. There we go. A little bit more pressure on the counter. So he's showing what happens if I come forward and bring my weapons out first. If I'm coming forward and he can basically just block me and counter me and go backwards, he looks incredible. So that's why if you're the durning fighter, if you're the one coming forward, your weapons don't come out first. You want to shoot second. It's like a duel. If the other person shoots first, they're out of their bullet. They have no bullet. Now you can aim and take your time to actually shoot them down. If you shoot first in a duel, you lose. Thailand is totally different in the like who goes first, whereas in the West you're like always be first. Okay, so here I'm trying to do more of what he's been talking about putting the pressure on and just blocking so that you can be Jangwa Song, so that you can be the counter fighter. So see how close I stay? He's showing me again how to do this correctly. My weapon comes out first as the person coming forward, and this is not a good idea. So I basically just have to cut him off. Again, this is Duuglas-Ittu style. Cut him off, put pressure on him, and then his weapons come out. I just deal with those. I block them, count, like parry it, whatever. And then I can land my power shot to punish him. I really struggle with this. It looks really cool when you do it right. Like every time he switches and he shows me how he wants me to be doing it, it looks amazing. Like that's part of the reason why he's so scary, is that because he just, look at how he catches it and he's like, I'm gonna kill you now. The way his scariness comes out is that he's pressuring you and you're like, oh my god, you have to like kick him or do something as he's coming towards you, and then he just totally gets that out of the way and hurts you. It's very intimidating. See see how he uses his shin to block that teep? So he doesn't have to deal with the teep with his hands. He doesn't have to lower his guard at all. He just basically cross blocks it and parries it with his shin. Here, trying to cut him off. When I'm cutting him off, I should be staying at the same distance from him all the time. Like, I basically still want to have him at the ends of all of my strikes. But you have to be able to strike out of your movements. This is, if you watch the Yod Kunpan shadowboxing session, this really helps you in how to train movement and weapons coming out of your movement. There we go. Counter. Take that air bubble out. So energy-wise, I'm following him as I'm like tracking him down. If my energy were more intimidating, if I were bringing that depth charge, that kind of like pulsing pong as I'm coming towards him, this would make me scary, like Wangchannoi, instead of kind of like maybe I can block him before he gets me kind of thing. It's an energy differential between the two of us. So I'm asking him whether you block and kick with the same leg, and he's like, it does not matter, and it does not have to be immediate. It has to be the correct jangwa. It has to be the same, the correct timing. So if you want to bring your foot down in order to then have a like really powerful kick off of it, that's how you do it. If you can barely bring it down and bounce off the floor like with a trampoline and do it that way, but it's going to depend on you and your timing. Slightly too far away, so I need to be like on him in order to create this pressure. There we go. By having this like intimidating, imposing, that's the word, to have this imposing energy at this very close distance as I'm tracking him down, it totally makes it harder for your opponent to breathe. Like, they just have this kind of emotional, they're not going to be doing the same kind of relaxed breathing. And it changes your roop. So if you're like, I am on you and I'm like tracking you down rather than I'm following you, your roop changes too. Roop is your composure, like your overall countenance, in case this is your first session in the Muay Thai Library.
It's not beautiful if you get like spoiled. Like you try to do something and you get spoiled.
So he's talking about what Diesel Moy talks about is that like if you throw your weapon first and someone spoils it and counters you, no matter how good your weapons are, you don't look good. Like you look like you're just getting kind of like tossed around. So basically be the one who makes the other person look not good. He's talking about faking. When you fake, you get people to kind of like be jerky and not beautiful. So when he's just floating away from me and I'm just putting the pressure on him with distance, if I don't have to deal so much with his counters, I have that correct roop, that correct imposing energy. So I just have to be able to transplant that into knowing that he's trying to hit me back, into knowing that I'm tracking him down rather than that I'm following a pad man. It's a mental thing. It's like a slight difference between those two things, and it's entirely mental.
Saying I have to spar a lot.
He's saying that?
Yeah.
So sparring is how you learn how to do this. Sparring is how you practice doing this. Because if I'm using only my own jangwa, like I have no opponent in front of me, I can do this all day. I can totally have this like in my head visualizing where you're going. As soon as you actually have someone who has an opposing will and an opposing rhythm that you have to like track down, you've just gone into a different level. So you have to practice this with someone in front of you, but learn it first in shadowboxing, learn it first like with your own visualization, and then bring someone's opposing energy into it. Okay, so now we're sparring a little bit, right? So he's saying I, Sylvie, am facing Muay Mat. So he's going to be producing the Muay Mat energy in front of me. So he's saying we wait. Rao ro. Rao is us, we. Wait is raw, rao raw. We are waiting for the opponent to go first. That's our jangwat, is waiting. So if I kick first, he's waiting to punch. So he's like, you wait. If you kick first, they're just gonna punch you, so you wait. You let them kick you, and then you punch them. Like, always be second, because you don't have to guess what they're gonna do, you just have to counter what they're doing. So watch his weight transfer, watch his feet, his knees, and his hips. And I actually really like watching his shoulders. He has this beautiful kind of line in his shoulders. His root, as he's coming at me very gently in his sparring to show me how this works, look at how his weight transfers forward and rocks to the side and like changes these angles as he's being Muay mat for me. And see how he pulses forward? He's I kicked first, and that's what happened.
He's showing how if you're Muay mat and you just punch, the opponent's like, but nothing. But you
So
wait.
this is if you're
That's
Muay mat, you can't
wait.
only punch. What he's teaching me is if you're Muay mat and you're coming forward and you're just punching all the time, it's very easy for the opponent to just deal with your punches and counter you. So if you want to be Muay mat, you have to do something in order to get your punches in. And for Wangchannoi, that means waiting. What you're doing to get your punches in is waiting, because they do something and then you can punch. So now I'm trying to juggle him a little bit, like we were doing earlier. Very much enjoying his sound effects. It's one of my favorite things about him. You can actually learn a lot about someone from the sound effects that they make in terms of like how they feel things. Karahat, with his elbows, he makes this like fop, fop sound. So you can hear that he thinks of them as being these little like razor blade swishes rather than like a chong, chong, chong. So the way that Wangchannoi makes these sounds of this like bong, bong, like he feels this kind of like ringing a bell.
He's saying you have to wait. And I'm saying that I drift backwards.
So this is another thing about being the waiting fighter. When you're the waiting fighter, you stand your damn ground. See how I'm not moving and I'm going to counter him? If I drift backwards, I'm being affected by everything he's throwing at me until I'm ready to throw my counter, and this looks really bad.
I do too many things. It's Mua, because I do too many
So I'm
things.
Mua. Mua means like indistinct, non-crisp, muddy, muddled, all this stuff. I'm actually throwing too many things. They're unnecessary. It's like I did 3 things I didn't need to do in order to do one thing that was good. This is basically like spraying bullets at a target where someone else sniper shots one thing onto the bullseye. Like, these are very different skills. I'm throwing many things to land one thing, and this is Mua. If I could just counter what he's throwing at me and nail him back with something, this is beautiful, men, precise, articulate is the style that he has.
Going back up.
So you can see the difference even in what he's throwing at me. He's throwing higher volume, but he's landing every single thing that he throws. Whereas I'm like trying to rebalance myself before I can throw one thing. That's what his style does to you, is you have to rebalance yourself before you can counter him. That's why he likes to go second. Ta-ta. He wants me to be slow, deliberate. See how he waited for me to throw that knee, and then he could just like sniper that punch back. So now my knee is the counter, right? So he's throwing the punches first, and I just have to deal with them, whether that's blocking or whatever, and then I can nail that knee up through the middle. A little bit more. I'm starting to get on this rhythm with him now. I can feel it. The reason I'm calling myself Mua is because I can feel it. I can feel all of these unnecessary movements going on. He's coming at me with his like mean face now. He's trying to come grab me for the clinch. I really like this segment. He's teaching me the same thing about my Mua and the same thing about like articulate movements in the clinch. So what he's going to show me here is that you can exchange knees back and forth, but it's the opponent who waits for the correct time, does a turn to off-balance you, and then lands a single beautiful knee. That person wins. That's the bullseye with a single bullet rather than scatter shotting and maybe getting a couple of points around the outside.
มวยไทยเขาบอกว่าลูกชัดเจนใช่ไหม
He says chatjen.
ไม่
Chatjen in Thai means like clear or obvious, like very, very clear. It's the opposite of mua. So he's saying in Muay Thai, you give points to the opponent whose weapons are chatjen, which means very legible, very readable, very clear, like crisp.
เวลาชกกับมวยเข่าที่เป็นแบบลังสวนใช่
So I'm asking him, if you fight Muay Thai like Lang Sawan, who makes everyone exhausted, you're dealing with someone who is basically locking you and throwing lots of knees. How do you fight Lang Sawan?
กันมึงตีกูขนาดนี้เราหมดแรงแน่ใช่ไหม
And he's saying Lang Sawan's going to knee you a lot. So you just have to know that you have to like wait for the correct time with a lot of knees coming at you. So I'm throwing knees and he stays ning ning. Ning ning means like undisturbed, unmoved, unperturbed, unaffected. So even though someone is throwing lots of knees at you, you're just waiting, ning ning, very calm, and you find your correct moment and you rip and you just land one clean, beautiful chatjen shot. But it's very important to, while you're waiting, not be like, Like in those old gangster movies when someone's getting riddled with bullets and their whole body is shaking, you have to not be like this as you're getting hit by these shots coming at you. You have to be very ning ning, very unmoved, and then you can fire a shot. Be like, you know, bullets ricocheting off the Hulk or Godzilla or something. Ning ning. I love this slip out. I don't even know if you can call it a slip out. It's like a toss off or whatever. But he basically is like taking a sweater off.
ปั้มมานานไม่ได้
So if someone has like a double plum on you, if someone has like a double grip that's a really dominant position, he actually just throws his arm across, because my two arms are out, he throws his arm across the two arms and then just throws it down, and my whole body gets thrown off of him. Oh.
Swing your arm over.
If you do that with the right timing, they're gonna go flying.
Swing your arm over.
So I'm pushing his shoulder. That's not it. That's a different thing. There is a thing where you go like up under the shoulder. That's not what he's doing. His whole arm is straight and it just goes like a rainbow over. See how he hits basically where my crooks of my elbows are? On the forearms, not on the shoulder.
And if you step a little bit.
And if I step to the side, if I like follow that arm, it doubles it.
No.
No. It's the back of the arm. I'm trying to like shove him like this. It's not a shove. It's literally just, it's almost like you're windmilling to the side.
Like a tidal wave.
ขาไป
And if your legs go too,
even better.
all the more.
Step and pivot. No, the other way.
Ugh.
Step the other way. This way.
Wangchannoi, now. See how he just throws his arm?
in front of the body
So if the arm goes in front of the opponent's body, that's it.
ใช่ใช่
So you're basically like wiping in front of their chest.
อ้าว
A knee on the end of it. He's like, if you grab back and throw a bunch of knees, you're just going to be exhausted. So basically try to get out of the clinch faster. Someone comes and grabs you and you're just like, nope, none of that.
ตีตี
Ugh.
What about against the lock?
So I'm asking now, or Kevin's asking, what do you do against a locking opponent? So if you fight someone like Cherry, Lang Sawan locked too, and he's like, you basically stop them from getting the lock in. So like the second they grab your neck, you smush their face. That's a way to stay out of the lock. I already locked him. So now he's doing what I thought he was doing in the first place, which is you go kind of behind the shoulder and just pop them off. I call it the can opener.
เอาหัวมุดออกมาอันนี้อย่างเวลาปั้มระวังถ้าเขาอยู่ข้างนอกเนี่ยระวังนี่ เขาอยู่นี่ระวัง
So he's saying be very careful of having like lame arms on the inside. If you're not controlling the opponent's elbows, they can elbow over. So if I have my hands like this and someone has their arms inside but kind of lazily, I can elbow over. So you have to really put weight on the crooks of someone's elbows, either from the outside or from the inside, to block elbows like this. See how I'm stopping his elbows by the pressure that I put on his on the crooks of his elbows.
Yeah.
สมัยก่อนโซกได้สมัยนี้ไม่โซกแบบนี้ใช่ไหม
โอเคเอาอะไรอีกไหม
Time like this.
Maybe on the back a little bit.
So we're gonna have him show a little bit of how to work on the bag because we got so much out of him teaching how to use a bag for Jongwat and how to train on the bag. So we're gonna get a little bit more of that as the last section in here. So I'm like, in the West, we learn how to like really wail on the bag. Like we learn to just, you know, be very, very busy on the bag, hit it as hard as you can, as many times as you can. It's kind of like a burn drill at all times, and then maybe kind of like dance away from it to breathe and then come back in. And he's saying you can step off the bag, that's okay, but keep picturing it. Like know why you're stepping off the bag, and it's not to breathe. So again, here's a correction on where to keep my guard, which is really, really important when you start working on stuff. If I learn on pads to keep my hands like this and then don't carry that over into bag work, it will never be consistent. So you have to, he's showing how not to hit the bag, which is how I said I hit the bag. So see how he's like really picturing it. He has his defense. He's picturing what is being thrown at him so that he can block it, and then he's going to counter. Why do you counter this way? You really use it as like a visualization exercise in like knowing why you're doing something or how to block and what you're doing. The bag is all about Jongmat, visualization, timing. So now he's like, picture that the bag is Muay Mat. So what I need to do if the bag is throwing punches at me, keep my guard up, deal with the punches that are coming at me. If I parry, what comes over that? If I block, what angle am I at? How do I step off to the side? Someone who's going to be throwing a lot of punches at me, how do I deal with that? So the distance I'm at to the bag has to be the distance that Muay Mat would be at me. So now he's telling me, deal with someone who's femur. So now the bag is femur. It's going to be throwing a lot of kicks at me. It's going to be moving around a lot. It's going to be keeping a farther distance. So I'm going to need to be closing in on the bag.
Remember, you want to draw the punch so you can counter.
Oh no, now it's femur.
Yeah, but when you block, you're still countering.
So see how he like waits around the outskirts of the bag? He teaches this really well in the first library session with him. So he's like, don't just stay in one spot and wait and teep. Move around because they're moving around. So you don't want them to find the angle that they're happy at. You want to keep moving so that you're not standing still and they're moving around you. You want to be kind of like also finding the right angle and the right distance you want to be at against a femur fighter. Like wait. You can't just go in and throw 9 things. You have to like wait for where your opening is. So if the bag is femur, I should actually be pressuring the bag a little bit. So he's saying you can throw like 2 or 3 things at a time. You wait, and then you can throw like a little bit of a combination or like 3 things at once. But then you have to move. Like you can't just throw 12 things on a person. It's never going to be that way.
What is he saying?
ถ้าเป็นแบบชุดไม่โดนไม่มีอะไร He's saying for every one one that they throw, you throw 3 back. But 2 is going to make you a little bit more tired, but 3 is going to nail them, like no matter what. Yeah.
You finish them.
You punish them for everything.
So you want to think about what each one of your strikes is actually doing. Like you don't just throw 4 things because it needs to be 4 things. You want to think, how do these set up for the power shot that's actually going to hurt someone? Like, am I closing their eyes with these punches so that then I can throw a knee?
Around the bag, baby.
Again, get that guard. I always bring my guard down and keep it up so that you can keep the bugs out of your face, keep the punches out of your face. Little fancy feet. So the movement of the bag, the way the bag sways, you can use that to train your eyes for when weight is coming towards you, this kind of weight transfer thing that Karahat teaches very well about, like, as someone's weight is coming forward, you know when to kick. Now he's having the bag be Muay Khao with me, right? So now the bag is going to be throwing knees with me. So when he was showing me how to be Chat Jin, when he was showing me how to stay Ning Ning, stay very calm while someone's throwing knees at you, and then you can turn and land something very clean. And this is practicing that arm to get out of someone's clinch. So you get out of the clinch and then kick them in the head is what he just pantomimed there. So here I'm Ning Ning, but I need to be picturing someone actually kneeing me. So he's making a point about me not letting my body get thrown back when I'm getting a straight knee. So if someone throws a straight knee on me, you don't want to go bong and get knocked back. It looks like you just got gutted. You want to pivot all the time. So you let the knees slip off of you, especially with Vaseline. They're just going to kind of like slide off your belly. So while you're on the bag, while you're trying these things, you need to recreate this. There he's showing the, like, they're sliding off the sides of you. He's saying you will lose points if you get hit straight. So don't have a nice flat target for someone to hit their knees against. So now I have to go back to this teep. This is the teep that earlier I was having a hard time with because of controlling distance. So if you're going to be turning your hip in order to land the Samart teep, the like sideways teep, understanding your distance is a little bit different than the distance you would have if you're teeping straight. So I throw like hundreds of teeps a day on the bag, just this left, right, with it straight in front of me. But if you're going to be pivoting to the side like this, you have to recalibrate that distance. And the way that you twist your standing foot is going to help you understand how that distance works and how far the opponent's going to go if you nail them right in the center and push them back. He actually chambers his knee first a little bit. This is why he can do it from a closer distance than I can. When I lift my leg, I lift it a little bit open already. He actually just chambers his knee up and then shoots it out, kind of like a pool cue. No, that's why you don't. That's why you don't teep straight. He just said Samart was good at this. Like everyone knows this is Samart's teep. And so I asked him because Wangchannoi was Samart's final fight. Like Wangchannoi was Samart's retirement fight. And I'm like, how did that feel when you were fighting him? And he was just like, oh, I was getting knocked around so hard by that teep. Wangchannoi won that fight. So I'm turning it a little bit into like two beats in the rhythm. He has it pretty much like 1-2 flowing together. His is 2 beats also, but they flow very nicely together, like a slip or something. Like boop. Mine are like bump, bump. So I have to work on how to move that transition between those two. I really love this kick that he has. It's really powerful, and we have some slow motion of him hitting the bag, and his kick on it just has this like beautiful power. He's doing a little bit of a question mark kick, so he was showing how you drag the back foot forward a little bit and then you do this really deep turn on it.
Boy.
Look how pretty. You
His knee
cannot
comes.
see that.
Look how far
Look at
his
him
knee
drag it. And he covers so much distance. Like where he starts, you're like, he can't reach me from there. And then he actually turns it into a short kick somehow. Again, don't come to one. You have to do this every day. This is not something that you just like pick up. Chabai le means like it will come gradually. Very encouraging. So he's saying in order to train my guard, in order to train me to actually be able to see from my guard being up high, 20 minutes a day, I need to be like shadowing with my hands here.
Your thumbs should be on your eyebrows, and you should touch. He says 20 minutes. You should be like.
So you really, it's the same thing that like people wear their mouthpiece while they're doing pad work or something in order to get used to breathing with your mouthpiece in. You have to just, for like stretches of time, you have to just keep your guard up. Like this is not with anyone hitting me or anything like that, but just 20 minutes of shadow boxing, getting used to being able to see out of this sight picture. And then you put pressure on you, then you bring it into sparring, then you bring it into your pad man hitting you back, but you're comfortable seeing from there. Don't cover your eyes.
Under her glove.
Yeah, but not like this. Like,
มีเคยชกหน้าไหม
sorry.
Boop, 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 boop.
That's really good.
Big for you. That's good.
Oh, I love Wangchannoi.
Okay, so,
So cool.
I want